All right, the ongoing Twitter files being released by Elon Musk continue to reveal federal collusion and interference with the social media giant. Now, this backdrop demonstrates why a recent lawsuit against the federal government filed by the state attorneys general of Louisiana, Missouri could shape up as a landmark First Amendment case. The complaint alleges that the suppression of disfavored voices on YouTube, Meta, and Twitter platforms is equal to government action, which violates the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Now, it's worth noting that a federal judge allowed this censorship lawsuit to proceed even before the release of the Twitter files confirmed what many suspected was happening. Well, joining me now to discuss this is one of the attorneys general that is leading this suit, Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry. Jeff, welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you for having me. Good to be with you, Tony.
Hey, but before we get into this topic, you joined the program last month to discuss your new initiative to help parents report inappropriate material for children in public and school libraries. Give us an update on that.
Yeah, so we have a portal. In fact, we've asked parents around the state of Louisiana that can go to our website. There's a banner on the top of that website at agjefflandry.com that allows them to click it and input a portal so we can get feedback as to what is going on inside of their public and school libraries. Because the investigation that we put forth, we found information in public libraries that we believe there are books that certainly are not age appropriate and are accessed by that under which children have access to that are not age appropriate. And so we've heard from parents and they want to know what they can do. And in the coming weeks, we're going to be outlaying the results of that investigation and actions that those parents can take inside of their own local governments to control age appropriate, to ensure that age appropriate books are on age appropriate shelves in their public libraries.
Well, we'll explore that more with you when you complete your investigation on that. We'll discuss that in greater details. I want to move to this topic because yesterday I had Dr. Jay Bhattacharya on, who is actually a part of your lawsuit. Give us an update on your lawsuit against the federal government in terms of this collusion with big tech.
Well, certainly we can thank the Lord for the federal judge here in Louisiana. Could you imagine if we would have taken this case and the federal judge would have dismissed it and then later the Twitter files would have been released? Let me sum this case up for everyone out there that's watching or listening. This would be as though the federal government would send someone into your studio, Tony, who would be able to tell you what you can and can't say, what you believe are going to report on information that they believe is correct or not correct. And then it could be as bad as you would interview me. And if the government said, Tony, the fellow that you interviewed, we believe is spreading misinformation out there, and they would make you cut that from the show. That's what's going on in a much grander scale. The government in this lawsuit, we have found, was actively involved in suppressing the speech of Americans through social platforms, whether it be during the COVID-19 crises, during the pandemic, or the Hunter Biden laptop issue, or Russiagate. We've even found evidence that they interfered, but they certainly were censoring information during the election. Now, this is something that you normally would see happen in a communist or totalitarian type state. This is exactly the kind of conduct that the First Amendment was put in place into our Bill of Rights to prevent. If we don't have a democracy under which Americans are free to exercise their speech, free to discuss their ideas in the marketplace of ideas, then we're no better off than in a communist country. We are no longer citizens. We're really subjects to the government.
Now, Jeff, this is not political suspicion, or you're not just making these claims. You actually went through the discovery process. They had to produce records and information. You deposed individuals like Fauci. So you have facts. You have evidence here. What was the most, you mentioned the Hunter Biden laptop. What was the most surprising information that you discovered that you can share with us?
Well, I can tell you, probably the deposition of a gentleman by the name of Elvis Chan, who worked for the FBI has really highlighted the connection between the FBI and these social platforms in censoring information. We do know from the discovery that we've got and the depositions from Dr. Fauci that when Dr. Fauci spoke, Americans were censored. We know that. We had 8 hours of deposition or 7 hours of deposition with Dr. Fauci, of which he couldn't recall a lot, but we have the documents that we know the things that he did and the things that he didn't. We even found out that Dr. Fauci had a daughter that was working at Twitter. I mean, imagine that. During the time that he was out there censoring Americans' information during the COVID-19 pandemic, his own daughter was working for Twitter. But again, I think that the deposition of Elvis Chan is the most damning. But what it did was inside of that deposition, we discovered that the FBI actively had a secret backdoor portal under which they would communicate with Twitter staffers, with Twitter employees, basically telling them who to censor, what information they believed was misinformation and disinformation, and who was allowed to post things on social platforms like Twitter. And we believe it existed at Facebook and the other platforms as well. Because remember, Mark Zuckerberg also went on the Joe Rogan show and said actively that the FBI was communicating with them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Attorney General, we're up against a break. I could continue this conversation, but we're going to have to do it another day. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you.